Reverend Laura Glover, our chaplain, a resident, and a woman who is passionate about her faith and people. This is her life. Four of Laura's favorite words are community, joy, and social justice. She's a woman of ideas and creativity. And her life has been one of adventure, and during our conversations, we're going to highlight that adventure. Laura, where were your beginnings?
Well, I was born in Oklahoma City, but I was really raised in rural Oklahoma, up mostly on our northern plains in Gage and Jet, but primarily in Pond Creek, Oklahoma for a number of years up near Kansas. Went to high school in Ponca City, and am blessed in the midst of that to have had a good bit of time with my grandparents in Oklahoma City as well.
So what did you especially enjoy about those high school years? Does something stand out for you?
High school years were challenging because that was a time when my parents divorced, and I was used to small rural towns of less than 1,000 people, and Ponca City was not that. So it was really a startling change for me. But I got involved in drama. I got involved in working with folks who were international students and doing mission work, and also with creative writing.
Well, then you, after high school, you went on to several years of higher education. What involved there?
Well, I went to Sweetbriar College, which is a small liberal arts college for women in Virginia for my undergraduate degree, and I chose that because it had a wonderful creative writing program, and I thought that's something I had really enjoyed and something I've moved forward with. And again, opportunities near DC for social justice. But I didn't get to take a single creative writing class while I was there. I discovered just sort of a life of the mind, philosophy and anthropology, history. I loved the liberal arts approach of learning to ask questions and see things from different perspectives. And I did a lot of drama, spent a lot of time in the theater in those years.
Do we have enough drama here at Epworth for you?
We have low drama in the sense of anxiety, which I deeply appreciate, and we have, I think, wonderful outlets for theater at Epworth.
That's a good idea moving forward. Well, you said you were close to DC. You did move to DC.
I did. There were a group of 5 of us that graduated together. I got a townhouse together outside of DC. And I worked for an international think tank there, World Resources Institute, and I just absolutely was not meant to live in DC. The things that disturbed me the most were just the disconnect. In the small rural towns I grew up in, everything was about community, and there's that safety net that undergirded everything. Everybody knew that we were all in it together, and in DC, everything was so myopic. Very narcissistic, and people just put blinders on and ignored each other, and there just was not that sense of community. And the homeless, particularly there, just really tugged at my heart.
I don't know that it's changed much since those days either. Well, you did return to Oklahoma then, and when was that? And I guess the why is that you just didn't really like DC.
Well, I didn't, and again, the homelessness there really tugged at my heart, and the idea that folks there saw homelessness as the problem of those who were on the street, and I understood homelessness as the problem of the community, that it was a failure of the whole of the community. So I returned to Oklahoma to do graduate work, and then went to OU College of Law, thinking this was an avenue to pursue social justice. And I loved studying the law, loved working with legal aid, especially family issues, and prison aid. That was an interesting adventure as well.
Well, you, during the next years, you were married, you had an adoption, you moved to Houston, son, church work. Tell us about that.
Yeah, a lot of that. After law school, I moved to Houston and served as a clerk for a federal magistrate there. Had married while I was in law school. That was wonderful, and adopted my daughter, which is fabulous. She's continues to be an amazing human being. And then when I had an opportunity to serve for another term for the federal magistrate, I decided, nope, that homelessness issue is still tugging at me. The federal courthouse was downtown, overlooked a park that was a gathering place for the homeless during the day, and I started making forays over at lunch with sandwiches and things to hand out there and talk with folks. And so that's what I did for 10 years. I gave myself to the mission work of the church, organized all of the missions for our church locally and nationally and globally, and our mission ventures to Costa Rica, but worked primarily with homelessness and hunger issues for those 10 years.
Well, your son was born.
And my son was born. His first Christmas, he was born right at Thanksgiving, and his first Christmas was spent hosting homeless families overnight in our church. He was dressed as a little Santa Claus. It was fabulous.
Well, and your son's name is Patrick.
Stephen Patrick,
and
yes.
your daughter is Amber. Is that
Amber,
correct?
yep.
Then you did go through a divorce.
I did.
And what happened with your life after that?
Well, the divorce was a painful, difficult thing because I loved my husband. We were deeply in love, and he just kind of came off the rails there. And we just had to start over. My daughter was going to graduate school at that point. She was leaving to get her degree in marine biology, her master's at UCLA. And so my son and I packed up and moved back to Virginia, where my daughter had just graduated from my alma mater, and so he was familiar with that area, and it was, a second home to me. So it was a good place for us to start over. So we did.
And you did go to work for your former college?
I did. I was fortunate to get the position. I was the director of annual giving. I'd done a lot of fundraising for all of those mission projects I'd been working on for all those years. And so I did that and loved working at my alma mater, connecting people, mentoring young women. There are a lot of young women that worked for me that are now professionals in the field, and I love getting to see that.
Well, in all of your life's work, you have been very active in your church, and you were active in Virginia as well. What was your church there, and what did you do?
Well, we went to Fort Hill United Methodist Church in Lynchburg, Virginia. We loved it. They just welcomed us in. They were so good to us, involved us. I was a part of the Stephen ministry of that church. Also did a lot of work with hunger and other mission programs there. We had a wonderful feeding program that my son and I liked to volunteer with. And my son was embraced there as well. He played the saxophone and was in the ensemble for the church. And there was a retired Methodist pastor there who played the trombone, and they sat next to each other in the ensemble and were just nothing but trouble for all of those years. It was a wonderful mentor for my son.
You did return to Oklahoma City.
Yes. We had thought that we would stay there, until my son graduated high school. But the spring of his sophomore year, I had the opportunity to return to Oklahoma to serve as the Director of Development for the Regional Food Bank of Oklahoma. And that was a great opportunity, and it was home, and we were ready. I was ready to be in the home of my heart, which was Oklahoma, and Patrick was ready to meet the home of that would be his heart in Oklahoma. So we went ahead and took that opportunity and came home.
So tell a bit about the illness that kind of struck you in the midst of...
Well, it was quite the surprise. When you think things are just going along so smoothly in life, I really enjoyed my time at the Regional Food Bank. It's a wonderful mission. But the one thing, after a few years there, I felt very disconnected from the mission. I just didn't get to see the people, which was so much a part of my life and what we had always done. And so I was trying to figure out, what direction I might want to go next. And then woke up one morning and couldn't get the breath to sit up in bed. And I had an upper respiratory infection some months before, and they had said, well, you might be developing, adult onset asthma as a result of this upper respiratory thing, because it was pretty severe. And so I thought, oh, great, I've got that adult onset asthma they warned me about. So I called the doctor, and they were able to get me in, on my way to work. I'd just stop in, and my son was going to drive me. It was going to be no big deal. But within an hour, the two doctors in the emergency room came in, and they were infants. They were so young. And one of them still had braces on, for crying out loud. And they said, well, the good news is, and I thought, oh, this is fabulous, good. They said, you're in great shape for someone, you're doing really well for someone who has pulmonary embolisms in both of their lungs. And both lungs had masses, about a third, the top third of both of my lungs. And so they said, we've already called the ambulance, we have you a room in ICU, but if you have anyone else, you might want to call them, because you may not make the ride, you may not make the trip. So I called my daughter, and she flew up. And so, we had 8 days, several of those in ICU, but I came through it just fine. I didn't even have to have surgery, and all was well. But 8 days in the hospital is a good bit of time to think about what God might be wanting to do with you. And so I said, all right, God, clearly you're not ready for me, because you certainly had your chance here. And so I will commit to just taking the time to discern what it is you want of my life.
And
I thought God would take a while. I'd given myself 4 months. I've worked through January. This was in October, and I worked through January, and I said, and then I'm going to give myself 4 months to think about what I really want to do next. And I had some interviews lined up, with nonprofit agencies that I thought might suit, my desires in life. But it did not take 4 months. God said, immediately, I want you to give yourself unreservedly to full-time ministry and pursue being an elder in the United Methodist Church. And evidently, I was the only one surprised by that, because when I talked to my kids, my son-in-law, my son said, duh, was his response. And my son-in-law, who's atheist, when I called my daughter to tell her, he said, well, of course that's what she should do. That's exactly what she should do. Well, okay, evidently I was the only one who didn't get the memo earlier, but...
Well, in an awful lot of things fell into place within a 24-hour period.
Yes, it was really, it was an amazing affirmation, and Epworth continues to be an amazing affirmation of God's call in my life and what God has been doing in preparing me, I really believe, for exactly this and where I am. But, when God told me that's what God wanted me to do, and it was really very much without reservation. God desired for me to give myself wholly without reservation. So I said, all right, if this is what you want me to do, I'm applying for seminary, and I'm applying to go to local licensed pastoring school. And then I thought, you know what? I'm not going to wait. And I hadn't heard back from seminary or had a commitment that I would go to the training or could have a church or any of those things, or would have the ability to, a scholarship that would help me pay for it. But I'm going to put my house on the market, and we're going to commit to that. So I put my house on the market, and with, that was Monday. On Friday, within a 24-hour period, I got 2 offers on the house, both above the asking price. I got a letter with an acceptance to seminary. I got a letter offering me the top scholarship that they had. And within the same 24 hours, but the next day, I got a call offering me an executive director position for a nonprofit that I really felt passionate about. And I said no. And later that afternoon, I got a call from the cabinet offering me an appointment at a church and a position in local licensing school.
So
yeah.
that solidified your call, for sure.
Yes, I figured God was serious, so I would be too.
Well, aside from your adventure and ours of your coming to Epworth, you do have an important celebration this fall.
I do. It's I'm going to be ordained as an elder in full connection in the United Methodist Church. Friday, October 8th. I hope everyone puts it on their calendar. Just everyone come. I'm very excited.
It's my birthday too, so that's
so we'll celebrate together.
Okay, you spent a lot of time working in smaller churches. Talk about community amidst those smaller congregations.
Well, one of the things that was a part of my call, and part of it was certainly my upbringing, of course, but I was raised in the rural church. I was raised in a small United Methodist church in a small rural farming community, and they helped raise me. They gave me my values. They formed my faith. They taught me, what community was and how we were to live together. If a farmer broke his leg and couldn't get in a crop, then everybody made sure they took turns so that you got in that crop. When I was a kid or young woman, I was involved in Rainbow, and I didn't have the financial wherewithal to do all of the things, but the Masons of that community made sure that I had everything that I needed, and had the gowns and paid for my way to go so that I could go all the way through as a state officer and go to International Assembly. And so they formed me, and I really wanted to give back. And also I just believed in the vitality and the absolute importance of the rural church. So that was a wonderful thing for me to be able to give back and serve in those churches.
Well, having grown up in that community and then serving, it certainly, you fit right in. So how many churches have you served?
I've served, I only had one church for a few months. So for less than a year, I had one church, and then I had 2 churches. I had first Perkins United Methodist Church, Perkins First, and then we added Ripley United Methodist Church, wonderful, all of the wonderful folks. And then we partnered, and I served also with Lost Creek United Methodist Church. And then I was moved because there was an opportunity to start for our conference a new model of ministry for the rural church, which was cooperative parish ministry. And so I worked with 4 churches, all in Grant County up on the Kansas border, to form our first cooperative parish in Oklahoma. And that was Manchester, Waukeeta, Jefferson, and Medford United Methodist churches.
So do the congregations worship separately in those churches when you say it's a cooperation?
It was a brand new thing, and so we had to create it. We had to figure out, we decided what it was going to be. And at the beginning, there was someone else who would fill a pulpit for me in Manchester and Waukeeta while I was in Jefferson and Medford, and then I would be in Jefferson, Medford, and someone else would cover Medford and Jefferson. But we were able to shift things so that I could be in each of the churches each Sunday. So Manchester began worshiping with Waukeeta, and then I would be in Waukeeta at 9, Medford at 10, and Jefferson at 11:15.
A lot of travel.
Yes.
Well, Laura,
but it was on my prairie, which I love. So.
Really? Okay. Yes, you did say to me that you really did love driving between the churches. You loved the prairie.
Yeah.
So what are your dreams for residents at Epworth?
Well, my dreams for my time here are that people will come closer to God, that they will know God's presence wherever they are on their faith journey in their life, that they will have compassionate care and support, that they will have opportunities to continue to learn and grow and serve in their faith, and that we will model for this community and for the world what it really means to be a Christian community together.
Amen. Laura, you're coming to Epworth Villa as our chaplain. You've come with a great deal of experience. I personally feel this is one of the best fits for Epworth ever. And I do thank you for finding us, and I thank you so much for sharing your story.